The GSoW secret cabal interviews.
Hello, everyone. This is Susan Gerbic from the GSoW Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia project. And today I have Greg Neilson with us. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Susan. After all this time, great to talk to you.
let's see if the listeners can pick up what part of the world they think you're in.
G'day. I'm talking to you from beautiful, sunny Sydney, Australia.
What time is it there?
It's 6:30 in the evening, 11:30 in your place, I believe.
Yeah, it's 11:30 p.m. So, but that's cool. We were just talking about how cool it is that we're able to do this, Australia and California, and it's all free.
Yeah.
over
Oh, I did have to
Google.
spend $13 on the microphone headset.
Oh, that's true, but you'll use that microphone over and over and over again. So anyway, Greg, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a gentleman of leisure, as they call me. I used to work in the computer software field for my whole career. Left there a few years ago. They told me to take the money and go, so I took the money and went. I've been knocking around doing a few things since for interest more than for a paycheck. What can I say? Interested in astronomy, interested in science fiction, in martial arts, critical thinking, home renovations, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, that's about it from me.
So you listen to several different podcasts, is that right?
I did. When I left work, I started listening to a few podcasts, and in particular, there's one in Australia called The Skeptic Zone that I really got into. And they're talking to this American woman called Susan Gerbic every now and again, interviewing her about what she was doing with Wikipedia. And I always thought that sounded interesting, but maybe something to look at later. Interesting for someone else to do. And then one night actually, I tell you, I saw a cartoon that summed up the situation perfectly. There was a guy sitting on his own in a darkened room, just lit by the light coming from his computer. And he was calling out to what was obviously his wife in the other room, saying, "Oh, I can't come to bed just yet. I found something wrong on the internet." And I had one of those moments. One of those moments where I found something on Wikipedia that was wrong and needed to be fixed, and I just could not go to bed until I figured out how to fix it that night, then and there.
Oh, is that right? I
It was
haven't
just
heard
one of
that story before. That's great.
yeah, it was just one of those moments where you say, "That's it. I'm not going to take it anymore."
And so then you remembered the Susan Gerbic person who,
Absolutely. Yeah, I did. I thought, well, now that I've now that I've done that much, I might as well jump all the way in the water and learn how to do it properly. I picked up a few hints from you along the way that were very helpful anyway, just from the interviews.
uh-huh.
Things like the bottom-up editing,
hmm
that was very helpful. But nothing compared to the training that you went through, the actual formal training to learn how to do it. I don't know how those other editors manage, frankly, trying to figure it all out for themselves. They're doing it the hard way.
Oh, I know we do have a unique way of doing it. I mean, we're mentoring you the entire way, and it's nice because we can kind of talk to each other. I know on normal Wikipedia, it's more anonymous. They aren't, I mean, I know they can go, there's places you can go and you can ask questions and things like that, but I don't, this is just a little more informal, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's more informal, but it's also more structured, if that makes sense to put those two together. Like if I write an article, I'm just finishing one at the moment, and I wanted someone to review it. Because when I write an article, I come out the other end thinking that I have written the greatest piece of literature since the first Neanderthal started scrawling on a cave wall. But when someone else reviews it, they don't necessarily come to the same conclusion. And they point out where what I thought was brilliant. When someone else reads it, they say, "I can't figure out what you're trying to say here." So the review process, for instance, it's just one example, but that's invaluable. And having a group of people,
Oh, yeah.
similarly minded people that you can work with on, that's great.
Yeah, and it's true. I like to review people's pages, but I don't necessarily know what you're all talking about. I mean, I don't have a degree in science at all, but I can kind of, in a way, that's kind of a blessing, because if I can't understand what you're trying to say, then probably the average person reading the article might have some difficulty with it as well. So maybe it's better that I don't have a science background when I'm reading these pages, and I'm just looking for, is this understandable? Does this make sense? Is this the right word?
I think you're absolutely right. I think there's too much technical stuff in there. I mean, if you're writing an article about somebody who's, say, a practicing scientist, it's unavoidable that there's going to be a little bit of technical stuff about what they did,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what they're doing all day, every day. But as you say, it's written for a lay audience. That's one of the traps I know I tend to fall into, is you spend so much time reading and listening to everything they've done that you end up, it's too easy to fall in the trap of getting too technical. Nice to have some reviewers who can call that out to you.
Now, you have a theme that you tend to edit with. I should point out to anybody listening, when you're going through the training process with me, if you're learning to edit in English, which is obviously the only thing I'm going to be teaching you in, you're going to be editing pages that I have assigned to you to do. And we start off with a very simple edits, and then we move on a little progressively more difficult. And I try to challenge people, but I always still try to give you edits that are going to be of interest to you. You know, some people are coming to us with a background in mathematics. Some are in the natural sciences. Some are, more interested in UFOs or whatever. So I'll try to pick topics that are in your interest, but still try to challenge you to some extent. New podcasts, that kind of thing, to work on backwards editing. So your theme.
Well, my theme, ever since I was at high school, I've had an interest in astronomy. I've sort of made it a bit of a personal mission to clean up the Australian astronomy articles on Wikipedia. Not exclusively, but that's enough work to keep me busy for a while.
Oh, and I've really enjoyed it too. As I say, I and other people read these pages that you're creating over and over sometimes, and it's so fascinating to learn about the Australians you've written about. Tell us about a few of these people that you've worked on.
Well, the one I'm finishing up just at the moment is a man called Warrick, who I'm astounded that I had not heard of this man before. When you look at what he's done, he's the director of the largest observatory we have here, the Australian Astronomical Observatory, and he has won pretty much every prize there is to win worldwide short of a Nobel Prize. And even there, he was a contributor major contributor in the teams that would have won 2 Nobel Prizes. He just wasn't the actual team leader, so he didn't get the prize. And yet, he's just never been one of these people who really puts himself forward in a publicity sense, so you just don't hear his name. So it's been brilliant to put that together.
Mm-hmm.
At the other end of the scale. I think I started off with the Astronomical Society of New South Wales.
Mm-hmm.
They had a sort of a real stub of a page, but nothing much there. So I expanded that and expanded it and expanded it. And the danger with all of this is you get to know so much about it. The last AGM, they actually voted me in as the secretary of the
Oh! Oh my goodness. So
I dug my own grave there, didn't
we've
I?
always said that we feel like we're stalkers, or we become experts on these people in ways that nobody's an expert on. I mean, maybe even their family and friends probably don't know as much about them as we do once we've.
They don't get as much of an overall view, perhaps. The family and friends might know what they're like socially. They don't know what they do at work.
Mm-hmm.
There's an old saying, if you start to think you're king of the universe, ask your mother what it is that she thinks you do for a living.
I like that line. That's very good. I remember pushing you quite a bit about getting more photos. And that's, well, obviously as a photographer, I want more photos on a page. And I can seem to remember with one of these societies, maybe was it New South Wales or was it the Victoria page you did? Do you remember?
Well, there's been a few where I've ended up putting my own photos in lately. I went to the Australian Skeptics Conference back in November and took photos of all the speakers there. So a lot of those have found their way into various articles. Certainly the Astronomical Society of New South Wales, that's got some of my pictures there. Couch, yeah, that's got a couple of mine. Oh, a lot of them do. Because I've just not long ago lashed out and actually bought a proper camera, a digital SLR camera.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking for excuses to use that, and then looking for excuses to do something with the photos I've taken. In fact, I'll tell you a little secret. Don't tell anybody else. But
except for recording.
Articles,
Okay, for everybody who's listening to this, put your hands over your ears and don't listen to this next part. I don't know what Greg's going to tell me.
He can take this out in editing. But if you look at some of the articles I've worked on, I've done a lot of articles on individual suburbs all around the place where I live. And a lot of those have photos in. And if you look carefully, you'll see my car hidden in the corner of just about every. There's a bit of a theme there.
Is that like an Alfred Hitchcock thing?
It's a little bit like that, yeah, just doing a cameo appearance.
Why don't you take like a stuffed animal or something and put it, somewhere in the corner of every picture? That'd be really funny. Just something that's in the background. Well, I take a lot of photos, and I went around my neighborhood on my bicycle. First, I went and said, okay, what are we missing pictures for? And I took pictures of the bus station and the museum and Main Street and, transit place. And I went and I uploaded them all in. I just went around to all of them on my bicycle one day and just took lots of photos because we want you to be a strong editor for Wikipedia. We're out to do this not only to improve the skeptical message, scientific skepticism, but it's also to improve Wikipedia as a whole. So, I mean, look at you. You're the person who a year ago, this March, was you started March 22nd, 2014. You wrote me that email. You went to fix one little thing, and look at you. You've taken on enormous amount. This is one of the reasons why I want to really talk to you, because there's so much you have done. And not only have you written and rewritten so many pages of focused on astronomy and also on Australia, but you are also helping out Wikipedia editors. There's an area of Wikipedia, not the GSoW area, that you're answering questions, right?
Yeah, there's a really nice area there called the Tea House, which they describe as a friendly place where editors can ask questions. Because it does get a bit intimidating sometimes. You write, you make a change and then someone reverts it saying, no, that's contrary to rule X17 or something. This probably doesn't mean anything to people who haven't edited it, but some people get very officious on Wikipedia, and it can be a bit of a thankless job. Having a nice, safe place to go and ask your dumb questions is something I found incredibly helpful in the early days. And now I'm actually get a real buzz out of being able to give something back there that I can go back to find people asking the same sort of questions that I asked, being able to give them something back. That actually gives me a real kick.
I remember when we first started out with the GSoW project, and Tim Farley was telling me, keep it really low key, keep it really low key. We don't want to have any trouble with the normal Wikipedia editors. And after a while, they started looking at the things we were doing, and we were challenged on a few things as well, because our name is so, guerrilla skeptics.
It could lead people to think.
It's very intimidating. Yeah. And so, exactly. So finally, the admins started looking at the work that we were doing. They're like, well, first they were saying, oh, we don't want a bunch of trolls over here. We don't want a bunch of editors coming in here and just messing up the pages and things like that. But once they got used to our editors and our style, they're like, oh my gosh, we love these people. Bring more in. We need more guerrilla skeptics.
Well,
because they're editing by the rules, and we're doing all kinds of things, not just skepticism stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, that was something that I had in the back of my mind as a concern: is are we the good guys or the bad guys here? But it didn't take me long to realise that we were actually looking at producing factual, well-documented, verifiable, interesting articles, which is not always the case for some things. There's a lot of people get on there and write all sorts of rubbish, and if you can fix it up and make it better, then it's a good thing in every way, regardless of whether you're working on a skeptical article or, I don't know, something about your local bus stop.
You're 100% right. And, I guess when you say, are we the good guys or the bad guys? Well, there's an awful lot of people out there who kind of look at us as the bad guys.
There could be,
So,
because I think there are a lot of people out there who don't understand the difference between an opinion and something that's actually backed up by evidence and facts and reality. A lot of people who say, my opinion's just as valid as yours, so it should be up there. Well, your evidence isn't as good as this other evidence that's here. And it's one of the nice things that where the Wikipedia Foundation themselves back you up is if you can provide evidence for this point and there's no evidence for that point, then Wikipedia should reflect that.
yeah, you're 100% right. Oh, I wanted to ask you about you went to the Australian Skeptic.
I did in November, yeah.
Now, is that the first Skeptic conference you've been to?
Yes, yeah, never been to anything like that before, and I probably wouldn't have if it hadn't been for some encouragement on the forum. But it was certainly worth going to. I couldn't believe it. There was even one of the speakers there that I went to school with in high school.
No way. Who was that?
Peter Fitzsimons, who's the history specialist, who was talking about some events from World War I, where the way they're portrayed in the public's mind is really quite different from the way they were in reality. They've taken on a real romantic almost view since that doesn't at all gel with the way they were for the people who were there.
Oh, that's fascinating. And from high school, huh? And who was there that was from our project? There was other editors there,
Yeah,
right?
well, I only met one, which was Svetlana, whose surname I don't remember, and I don't think I'd be game to try and pronounce it if I did.
And she's our team leader of our Russian team leader.
And she came up all the way from Melbourne, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, it's funny that she started the project. She was living in Russia, and she moved to Australia. So she's our Russian editor in Australia. Our other Russian editor is in England.
Okay.
And we have also in Australia. We have one of our Spanish editors is in Australia. So people are all over the place.
Well, that's pretty much the way.
It's really exciting.
That's the way this country is, really. It's a real mixing pot.
I love that. Now, when you were doing training, what I do is I will assign a rewrite to the person finishing training, but I'll give you a choice of maybe 5 different pages. And they're all pages that I pick that I feel are going to be something that you might be interested in. One of them was for Maynard from the Skeptic Zone, and you went right to that page. You said, that's the one I'm going to do. That's it. Dibs, dibs, dibs. That's mine. I'm taking it. Nobody else touched that one. I'm taking that one.
Absolutely.
So tell me about that. His page was how many references when you got a hold of it? Like 2 or something?
Well, it was a bit of a complex situation because he had a page which had been deleted because as it had been put together initially, it was not very well done. They didn't have references to support everything that was said, so the page had actually been deleted, and so I was pretty much starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh goodness, I don't remember. I think there's about 40 or 50 references there, mostly mainstream press references too. Because Maynard, for those who don't know, through my childhood, he was the voice of morning radio for anyone under the age of about 25. He was such a blast from the past when I heard that voice again. It took me way back 30 years ago. And it was quite a freaky experience. How just the sound of that voice was so instantly recognisable. It was really quite rewarding to be able to work on a page of someone I knew. Well, I knew vicariously because I'd spent so many years listening to him. He'd never met me, wouldn't know me from a bar of soap, but I knew him, and so it was very rewarding to be able to work on his page.
Did you meet him when you went to the conference?
No, I didn't get to, unfortunately, because it was a bit of a catch-22. He was trying to interview everybody, so he was in the green room and out the back, so I didn't get to meet Maynard, unfortunately. Not yet. Next time.
Yeah, that definitely will have to be fixed. I love the Skeptic Zone. I've always enjoyed the Skeptic Zone. They've been wonderful supporters of the GSoW project. Richard Saunders is a dear friend, and have been so impressed with Australians. I don't know what it is you guys are drinking over there that's in the water, but keep on, and can you bottle it and send it over here, because you're just seem to be go-getters, and just you don't look at things as a problem. You say, wow, that is a problem. Let's just figure out how we're going to fix that. I've I've been working with this vaccine project with we've been working on the GSoW Vax project the last a few weeks, and I've started working with several Australians who are not on our team yet, and just very impressed with them. They have a very positive attitude, and what can I do to help kind of attitude. I'm not shocked that I have so many Australians on our project.
Glad to pitch in and help. And I think the
Yeah.
Skeptic Zone especially has really pushed that vaccine message, especially for a couple of years now. So if they've been listening to that, they've got a bit of a background there. Dr. Rachael especially has been pushing hard on that one. So hopefully...
And we've written her Wikipedia page too.
Yes, I've referred to it a couple of times.
I'm really pleased that we were able to do that, and that was a page we created from scratch.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, starting with a blank sheet and saying, right, what do I say about this person?
There are some people in our group that really want to start with a and I'd rather start with a rewrite. I'm much more comfortable with a rewrite.
Yeah,
It's easier because you don't have to, it's easier to prove notability when the pages already exist. So I've been working on the Melody's Marvelous Measles page, and it should be out any day. Well, actually, it'll be
I feel for you.
sometime this week.
You have to scrub for a week to
that
get
has been something else.
stench off you, I think.
I tell you, I'm kind of sick of seeing the book cover. I've seen it so many times, over and over. Joe Alabaster last night, she finally uploaded a photo from inside the book. She says, "Here is another one you can use. Use this picture. Don't use that other one." Because I'm so sick and tired of seeing this pink and green and the little girl, she's standing there with her arms wide and her belly showing with a little measles pox on her stomach, and there's flowers and butterflies, and she's running around the garden. Like I'm done with that already. But yeah, so
Yeah.
pretty funny. Have you worked any pages that are non-Australians? Let me ask you that.
Yeah, I had in my training one of the
Somebody during training. Tell us about that guy.
one of the nice things about the training is that you get to work on some areas you wouldn't normally look at. And one that I did as my first big rewrite was a man called Victor Stenger, who was a good match for me. He was a physicist. That's what I did at university, and nuclear physicist. Ended up going on to become quite a skeptical spokesman. And unfortunately, tragically, he passed away just a few months after I got that page finished, which is very sad, but at the same time, it was quite touching to think that when his death announcement came out, how many people went to look at his Wikipedia page and found something, hopefully, that did justice to the man there rather than the very scrappy bit of stuff that was there before.
Spell me his name. It's Victor
Stenger, Stenger.
And I remember I was at the airport somewhere, going someplace, when I heard the news that he had died. And I said to myself, that name sure sounds familiar. And I went and I looked him up on Wikipedia, and bing! I was like, oh my gosh, Greg worked on this. You just had finished that just a few weeks before. He's the man who said, "Science flies you to the moon. Religion flies you into buildings."
Oh, catchphrase is worth it.
And I'd heard that before. I didn't know it was him. Yeah, he had a great catchphrase. That was wonderful. Yeah, he died in August 25th, 2014.
Yep.
So very recently.
Yeah, it was very sad news, but still, I was glad the timing worked out that I'd got this done beforehand.
Oh, I'm sure there was an awful lot of people looking at that article, using it to write different obituaries and memorials and so on. This is exactly, one of the things that GSoW is known for, is that we want to have the page ready whenever the person is in the news. Unfortunately, in his case, it was because he had died, but at least he had something respectable.
Yeah, that was nice. That was, well, just personally, from my point of view, that was very rewarding.
Yeah, I remember sending you a message saying, Greg. Your page is going to be all over the place, and I bet you it was. We find
Yeah,
that out.
I should have gone and looked up the stats, actually. I never looked at how many people looked at that page.
Well, take a look at that real quick. Let me see. I've got it. I've got it up here real quick. Let me look. So it was back in August. We can cut this out if it's just too boring for. Maybe we should sing a song or something like that while we're waiting for the
You don't
page
want
to
me
load.
singing a song.
Well, trust me, you definitely don't want me singing a song. My cats will run screaming out of the room. Okay, so I'm looking. So he's getting about 70 views a day. That's really good.
Wow, that is surprising.
That's for somebody, yeah. So 70, 77. Okay, so he died in August 2014. Let's look and see what it looks like. Oh dear. So he was getting about, okay, before he died, about 50, 60, 70 page views. And then when he died, it went to 563. The next day it was 2,400. And then
Wow.
the next day was 1,300. Oh yeah, he got quite a few views. Wow. Because I think just about every skeptical news kind of podcast came out with something about him. And then the views went to about 700, down to 500, 400, 300, down to 100, back up. I guess he was announced on something else. It hit almost 400 again. And then now it looks like they've leveled off to about 70. So yeah, there's some big numbers there. Yeah, you did a fabulous job. I'm really impressed that you got that done when you did. And just because I felt it was a page that you would be interested in, and it came across my desk somehow. I put these people, I have like a list of, I keep several lists of pages that need work, and I kind of say, easy, medium, or difficult. I kind of judge where you're in your training, and I'll say, okay, well, this page just needs citations improved. Like the citations are there, but they're not written correctly. That's an easy thing to do. Let's just have somebody come in and just clean that up. Or maybe the page will just need some rewriting, like the paragraph or two is kind of ambiguous and it's, it needs to be rewritten 2 or 3 paragraphs. There's probably not any research that needs to be done. Or maybe it needs an info box. And so those are all kind of easy things to do. I think in this man's case, it was more of a medium project. It had some good stuff on it at the beginning, but it needed somebody to go through it and clean it out a little bit. And I'm wondering how he got on my radar. I'll just find them by accident, and then sometimes people send them to me. And oh wow, he was sued by Uri Geller. Wow, that's
You must have
interesting.
read his
I've
Wikipedia
forgotten
page
about
to
that.
find that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. Wow, I don't remember that. So was he working for, is he a fellow of, I could look down here in the categories at the bottom and see, is he a fellow of CFI? Because that's one of the ways that, yeah, fellows of the Committee of Skeptical Inquirer. There you go. That's probably how he made my list. I've taken a lot of the pages for the fellows for the CSI, that's the Skeptical Inquiry, and not so much the Humanist, because I'm more interested in the SI, skeptical stuff, than the Humanist. Though we do a lot of pages for atheists and for humanists, because it's all about what you want to do, right?
Oh, there's no hard boundaries between any of it. I mean, I find myself working on all sorts of things, actually. It's amazing. I've got into looking through some of the new pages. You can get a list of newly created pages on Wikipedia. And looking through there, just looking for things to help out with has been incredible because you find so many different things. And wow, you look through the list of pages that I've worked on and I think, wow, I can't believe I worked on all those different areas. Politics and geography and the other side of the world. Amazing.
What was the thing that you edited first that got you interested in editing Wikipedia? That thing that kept you up that night?
You'll have to bear with me while I go and have a look. I've got no idea.
No, you don't remember what it is?
No, actually, I wouldn't be able to tell because I didn't have an account then.
Oh, but it doesn't come to mind?
No, I honestly can't even remember what it was. It was the biggest issue in the world at the time, and now I can't even remember what it was.
Oh, funny. Oh, how funny. I remember my first edit. I'm almost positive it was my very first edit was I was reading a book called The Handmaiden's Tale, and I think that it was for a class I was taking, a history class, and his Joe Nickel was mentioned in it because he authenticated the book.
Right.
And I remember somewhere in the book she mentions, I think it's a larch tree or something like that. So I went onto the Wikipedia page for the larch tree and I made maybe a half a sentence worth of edit. It said, in the Handmaiden's Tale, they mention this tree, something like that. It was just so silly. It's just
Hmm.
this little tiny thing I put in there. I don't even know if I had an account either. And that was kind of like, wait a minute, I can do this? I thought this was supposed to be really, really hard. I just did it.
Absolutely.
And it caught me and it was amazing. And my first edit that really was in the skeptical area, I've talked about this before, is I had taken a photo of Brian Dunning on one of the JREF cruises. And then I remember that Tim Farley had been talking about editing Wikipedia and why it's important to edit Wikipedia for, to improve skeptical content and all that. And I took notes and I just kind of forgot about it and then set it aside. And then, a month or so later, I uploaded the photo I had taken of Brian Dunning and I added it to his Wikipedia
Hmm.
page. And then I looked at his page. I said, his Wikipedia page is crap. God, this photo is really nice. I don't want my nice photo on this crappy looking page. So I need to start figuring out how to improve this page. So I went through and I kept working on it and working on it, just a little here, a little there. And finally it got better, but it kind of was addicting, I don't know if we all have OCD and we just want everything right.
It's like putting a
That's kind of
frame
how I
around your
feel.
photo, isn't it? It makes it look better.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. You're like, wait a minute. Those paragraphs don't look quite right. Let me just adjust them to make them look better or something. But I mean, so you didn't have any real skills in the Wikipedia editing. You had a computer degree, right?
I did. Although I'd worked with various other markup languages before, so that came in handy. Got up to speed with some of the technical side of it a bit quicker than I might otherwise. But what I didn't have
Right.
was the
Mm-hmm.
research skills, if you like, which is, it's not just a matter of sitting down at your computer typing up from my own store of knowledge. It's a matter of doing the research to find sources and citations and references for everything. And
Mm-hmm.
I just got to throw this in here because the one greatest hint I found for that was my local library. The librarians who work there have unbelievable amounts of skill and experience at doing that sort of thing, and they were able to point me to some resources I never knew existed. All sorts of wonderful things that just going into Google and typing in a couple of keywords is not all there is to it.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. So you're actually going into a building and talking to people,
Oh, well,
like
they gave
person
me
to
links I
person?
can then use from home, so you don't have to go out and talk to people all the time if
Oh,
you don't want to.
okay.
But once in a while, it's good to do.
Well, that's another real big benefit of our forum and having the project, GSoW project, is because some of the people in our group are experts at this researching
Mm.
thing. I mean, they're really good at it. Some of them have access to all kinds of college databases, and I mean, they're constantly talking about these things that's just way over my head, just all the
Oh, yeah.
time.
Or some of them are behind paywalls too, that you can't get them unless you
Oh, yes.
subscribe.
Right. And we have access to that because we have a whole group of people who are able to do all kinds of things. So if you're working on a project, we post it in a thread. A thread is just devoted to just that page you're working on, and other people have access to it. They can just go into your thread and they can say, "Oh, hey, I've got all this stuff," and they start throwing all these other citations for you. And then all you have to do is really just go through and try to figure it out, what you want to put in, what you don't. So if you don't have great research skills, I mean, you don't have to have them to do these projects.
Yeah, you certainly don't have to have them to get started, and you'll build some up as you go along.
hmm You get your own little collection of favorite links where you always find something. Yeah, I know I don't have those skills. I don't edit as much as I used to. I spend more time doing other things, but I really enjoy reading through the pages. And as I say, I'm almost always saying more photos. Where are the photos? I want more
Mm.
photos. And I'm always trying to get more of the human element, trying to, find out like, well, where did he go to school and why did he transfer from that place to the other place? I mean, what made him leave? Did he fall in love? Did,
And that sort of thing
did he
usually
find a
doesn't make it
woman?
into the official biographies, or the, certainly not into the published articles in the newspapers or something.
Right. I want to know when I what I want them to do. I don't want a People's Magazine version. I mean, I don't want gossip and all that kind of stuff on their pages, but I think that it's important that when people, especially younger people, students who are trying to find what they want to do with their lives, they read these Wikipedia pages, hopefully, and they don't see somebody who was, I don't want them to think that the person just sprang out of academia, out of the loins of his parents with a PhD. I want the person who's reading the page to understand that these are real people. They're not just in a ivory tower someplace. These are people who struggled themselves. They may have had learning disabilities, or maybe they came from a no-name town from nowhere. Maybe they had financial issues. Maybe they had struggled with dysfunctional families. I don't know. But I want them to be who they are so that other people are inspired to say, hey, you know, I so and so did it. Maybe I can do it. I don't, that's how I kind of feel. And if we have to add a little bit of that in there.
Not like an interview I heard a little while ago, where they asked someone for what advice did they have to offer people at the beginning of a scientific career. And this person's advice was, well, you should get your first Nobel Prize as early as you can in your career, because that smooths everything from there on.
That's great advice. I think it's going to be quite a while before I do
Yeah, I
that.
just can't help thinking there might be something that comes before that that you glossed over.
With the page you did with Warwick,
Warrick Couch.
how do you say his last name?
Warrick Couch.
Yeah, I was saying couch or something. Yeah, so with the page you had written with his, I listened to his, he was receiving an award, or he's receiving a
Honorary
doctorate from the University of Victoria.
That's right, yes.
Is that right? I was listening to that video you had put up, and then yesterday I went to go talk to the man who runs the planetarium a few blocks from my
Right.
house, and in Salinas, and I was telling him about this video I had just listened to, and I was saying, well, one of the things this man says is that what Warwick says is that it's a good idea to be able to admit that you don't have all the information. He was talking about the expanding universe and how they had, I guess he'd been on a team of people who had learned that proved that the universe was expanding, but what they discovered was not only is the universe expanding, but it's speeding up. It's expanding quicker than they thought. And so they don't know why. They have no idea. And so I guess other people replicated it and other people replicated it. And he said, we just had to come out and just publish, this is what is happening. We don't know why. We don't know anything else, but this is what we think is going on. And other people backed it up, and eventually it became fact. But it was important enough for Warwick to mention this at the Victoria thing, is that it's important that you don't know everything. And then, so going back to my planetarium, the man who runs the planetarium, I was telling him this story, and he says, you know what? That is really important that people need to know that in science, you don't always know everything. And there's so much that we don't know. It's very important.
Yeah, I remember hearing an interview with one of those team members not long after they originally found it. And she was saying that when we first got the results back, everyone's reaction was the same. They said, we've just wasted 10 years of our lives. Because
Is that right?
Their first impression was, we must have done something completely wrong because we've got the wrong answer.
Fascinating.
And so they then spent years going back to try and figure out what they'd done wrong, and it turns out they'd actually got it right. And the answer was just completely different than what everyone had always thought it would be.
And even if you had wasted 10 years, you wouldn't have really wasted 10 years because you learn as you go along and other people learn from the mistakes you make, or so they say.
Yeah, we're still wind up with this bizarre thing called dark energy that no one knows what it is.
Fascinating, fascinating. Now I'm not a science person, but I learned that from this page that I was reading of yours. Now, so tell me what you're planning on doing next. What? Mm-hmm.
I've got one more astronomical biography to do, which is somebody I met at the Skeptics conference, Amanda Bauer, who was one of the speakers there. But I want to keep doing some other things too as well, and not quite sure what it's going to be, but one that did catch my eye is ear candling. Could be fun to do. Yeah, I know. I've chosen an easy one.
Oh
there,
my
didn't
goodness.
I?
I think that that's actually on our rewrite list now that I think about it.
Actually,
I think it is. I think that you'll find it there, that it's one of those pages that I've come across and said, oh, this has got to be fixed. Well, I like having these other kinds of things done too. I mean, I remember Nathan did spontaneous human combustion, which is one of my favorite pages of all time. We have some people working on some cryptozoology pages.
The only one working on the correct pronunciation for that word?
Yeah, it's cryptozoology. My son tells me you don't say zoology, you say zoology. So I have to be correct, or my son will come in here and say something to me.
Family harmony is
The
important.
things we do. Yes, it is. We live in the same home together. So there's a lot of different things that are going on besides the vaccine project. We have quite a bit of work being done in all kinds of areas, and that's the way I like it. I want to keep it interesting. I want to keep it I want people editing things they want to edit.
Yeah, I was tempted to throw my hat in the ring for facilitated communication, but that would just make me so angry that I wouldn't be able to keep. I wouldn't be able to stay focused on the job.
Oh, I've been reading everything. It's just been incredible. Oh my gosh. It's amazing, that topic. I thought it was going to be way too much for me, but actually I'm getting it. It's a little confusing following who's who. Same with the vaccine. I didn't know who Sherry Tenpenny was. I had no idea who Stephanie Messenger was. I'd heard of the measles book, the Melody's Marvelous Measles, but now I've learned so much. I am really surprised at how much you learn by reading through these articles and doing your research, and it's incredible. Incredible the things you pick up when you're researching these. And one page leads to the next page, which leads to the next page.
And you read those articles and so on differently when you're trying to pull out information to include in your rewrite, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
I know, for instance,
Absolutely.
the magazines I subscribe to, the astronomical magazines and so on, I used to just sit and thumb through them and say, oh, that looks interesting. Now I'm looking through it saying, oh, look, that's some new information there. I bet that's not in Wikipedia yet. I'm going to have to go and put that in there.
That's backwards editing. That's exactly how you do backwards editing. I would go through Skeptical Inquirer magazines when they come in, here it arrives in the mail, open it up, and I could sit there with a pencil and go through the whole thing and just underline stuff and say, okay, this one's got to go on to. I'd go through it and I'd say, okay, that page, okay, let's check that out. That's a good one. I mean, I could take a thing of Post-its with me and just sit somewhere nice and calm and just sit there and put Post-its in all the places I think that it's going to have updates to. I could use these articles to put onto a Wikipedia page. And that's the beauty of backwards editing, which is not common from what I understand. That's a Susan thing.
It is, and it's so obvious once you get your head around it, but it's not something that I'd heard people do before. They'll take the top-down approach, saying, I want to write an article about this. Now, where can I find information on it? Never looking at it the opposite direction.
Yeah, so anybody who's listening who doesn't know what we're talking about, it's a style of editing that I don't know if I invented it, but it's just how I train my editors. It's almost one of the first things I teach you whenever you're training with me is I give you a citation that's a good citation. I mean, it's in a great place. It's notable. And I say, all right, now you need to find how you're going to put that citation onto this page, and you have to go through it be a podcast or an article from a magazine or a journal article or wherever, you have to figure out how you're going to get that on there. And in most cases, people have never heard of the article, they've never heard of the topic, and they've never heard of the Wikipedia page, or probably never heard of it. And then that's what I call backwards editing. You could do the same thing with a newspaper. You could take your daily newspaper and just go through it and highlight everything that is going to appear in the Wikipedia pages if you wanted to do it that way, or a magazine or whatever. In a way, what we're doing is we're promoting that magazine or that podcast or that journal because we're supporting it by making its links all over the place. It's like little breadcrumbs for people to find, I guess.
Absolutely. When people go to research that topic, if they're cluey, they'll go down to the bottom of the article and look for what the references are, and they'll come across that one. You know, I don't. It's certainly what I do. Is I don't just take the text of what someone's written in the Wikipedia article as gospel. I go down to the references and dig them up for myself. So having those links to magazines and podcasts and so on in there certainly gets more hits.
Mm-hmm. It's exactly what my thought process was. Is I want to make sure that our skeptical spokespeople are the people writing the books, the people writing the articles for magazines, the people doing podcasts, all that. I want to make sure that they're getting as much skeptical love as possible so that whenever they're it helps out the community. It helps out, just get beyond the choir. Absolutely. So Greg, one of the things that you've been really great at doing is something called a Did You Know? Can you explain that to everybody?
Yeah, sure. On the front page of Wikipedia, they feature each day a little section called Did You Know?, which are just short little snippets of information about some new articles that have been written. There's about 6 or 7 of them there at a time. And it's a really good way to publicise an article, either a brand new article that's been written or something that's been really substantially increased just recently. And I've been fortunate to have a few of my articles up there. In fact, there was one day when I had 2 of them there simultaneously. So I don't know how many people can claim that one. I took screenshots of that. They're on the bragging page. But it's also a way to really increase the traffic flow to those pages too. If it appears on the front page of Wikipedia, who knows how many hundreds of thousands of people see it, and a significant number of those are going to click on it and see, oh, what's this article about? So that's been a lot of fun.
And this was an idea from Tim Farley. Before I started the GSoW project, he had put up a Did You Know for Robert Lancaster, who's the man who created the Stop Sylvia Brown website. And I remember him talking about this Did You Know, Did You Know? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was trying to explain it to me. And then once I started the Wikipedia project, I think he mentioned it to me again, saying, well, you should try to get a Did You Know for that. And it's far too much paperwork for me. It's way over my head. I have smart people working for me. They deal with the paperwork that's involved in these Did You Knows. But it's not just any page can go up there. It has to be a page that's in really great shape. It has to be, like you said, it has to be brand new within the first 5 days, I believe, of its being launched. Or it has to be a rewritten page 5 times from what it was originally.
Yep.
And I think it's 5 times, right?
Yeah, it has to be 5 times bigger than it was.
It has to be so many words, right?
Yeah, there are minimum size requirements. Oh gosh, I don't remember what they are off the top of my head.
Oh no, don't go there. That's too much.
And it also needs to be in line with all the guidelines and everything.
So only the better pages. Right. The pages have to be really in good shape. It's got to be able to handle a lot of scrutiny because it's going to be viewed by so many normal Wikipedia editors, and then it's going to be out there for the public to see. And so Tim had suggested this as an idea, and when I started the project, I said, if anybody could figure this out, this might be a really good idea. And we have had so many. GSoWs probably had, oh, good Lord, in the 3 years we've been around, 3.5 years, we probably had maybe 50 on the front page of Wikipedia at some point. And it's been incredible. There was one week we had a Did You Know up almost every day. I mean, I think we put up 10. That's the week that you had two. I think there was
Yeah,
10
they
out
came in a big
within
rush,
about
didn't
8 days. It was crazy. It was wonderful. But that was a wonderful way of getting these spikes to the page. Um, like you said, views of people who would normally have not seen the page. They wouldn't have been interested. And then it's a ripple effect because they click on that page and then they say, "Oh, well, what's this other thing?" And then they click on something else that's in the page, and then they click on something else, and it it's like a little like throwing a stone into a pond or something. It's just like a ripple. You start bringing more interest to things.
You do. You do. It's the nature of the web, isn't it? So that's why you can suddenly find at 4:30
Hmm.
in the morning and you're still going.
Wikipedia is a bit addicting too. Yeah, you're 100% right. I know I've watched a movie or read a book and I've said, "Oh, I wonder what happened to that actor or that person or that historical person that I'm reading about." And then, 2 hours, you lift your head up and you go, I really should eat.
I think now,
I really should go to bed now.
what did I come here to look for again?
Yeah, what was that? What was my original? Oh my gosh. Yeah. And Wikipedia is written in such a way that you don't have to have the in-depth. You can just kind of get an overview and if you really find it interesting, then you can go and read the references at the bottom. I just think that Wikipedia is just one of the greatest inventions, for the last 50 years. I know that's probably not true.
Oh, it can be, although it does have its downside too, in that it can also be used for evil as well as for good. So we need to keep pushing to make sure that there's more good stuff, and
Well,
that's what people
they keep
find.
us working. Having that bad stuff out there is going to give us job security.
If only it was a job, you don't actually get paid for it.
Oh, I know. If I could get paid for it. Well, if we could get paid for it, Greg, we wouldn't these things would all be done. People would already be taking care of it and it would be already done and then we wouldn't have this. It's a hobby, but I think it's a hobby that has a purpose that is more important than, now that we're united and we're together and we're working on these teams in different languages, we're able to make a bigger difference. I know the interview I did with Leon, he said something quite important because he had already been a Wikipedia editor for, I don't know, many years before he had found the GSoW project, and he decided that it was very important for him to join this project because he could make a bigger difference when we're a team
Hmm.
because you're training people and he's learning new things from other people and because we can use the different languages we can translate each other's work and we can um, just improve things so much quicker so much better and I thought that was a really nice takeout whenever I had talked to him and he said that I thought wow he's got it he's on it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I thought when I was looking into who I was going to interview next. I said, "Oh, I have got to talk to Greg. Now I need to figure out how to get him on Google Plus and to get your headsets squared away so we can get you. See, now you're all caught up. You're going to be able to go on all the hangouts we do and right? Look, it's not so bad.
The frustrating thing, though, is that if only there'd been the right instructions around, I could have just done it and it would have all worked and everyone would have been happy. It's just, you know,
Oh, we don't use instructions. What's wrong with you? Come on now. We just wing it. That's how I've always done it. Just unplug it, restart it, reboot, replug,
settings that were hidden
kick it.
behind 10 layers of menus you had to go through that no one in their right mind would ever find.
Oh, that's true. You know what's funny is I can't stand written instructions. I'm horrible at written instructions. Just it's like my eyes glaze over and I just don't get it. No, I'm not even great with the videos. I just kind of just want to play with it myself and figure it out.
Uh, I get that with my goddaughter. She worked with mobile phones, so every time I had a question with the phone, I'd be ringing her up saying, "How do I do this? How do I do that?" And she always gave me the same answer. She said, "YouTube is your friend." I think that was a polite way of saying I don't want to answer all your questions.
Go to YouTube. Go to YouTube. Yeah, my son tells me the same darn thing. They're a different age. I we weren't raised. You're closer to my age than my son's age, and you know what I mean. We didn't have a place to go to. We went to the library.
Oh, and even if you went to the library, you would never, in your right mind, be able to find this same information.
Well, it's true, but
Uh,
yeah, totally got it. Really amazing. So I guess I'm going to get over to Australia here someday soon because there's so many of you guys over there. I really want to go over and hang out with everybody. I won't
Yay!
be making the conference at any time soon because it's in Thanksgiving week and I cannot get away from work at all. So until I retire, which is going to be another 10 years probably, I can't go to your Australian conference. But maybe I can find another way of getting over there some other time and then, you know, maybe in your winter. It's not that cold there in the winter, is it?
Well, certainly not in Sydney, no. It actually quite amuses me because you see young girls especially walking down the street wearing great big thick quilted jackets and little short mini skirts. And you think that's what the weather's like. It's a bit, it's not that bad that you need to worry about it. I mean, it has its hot and cold days like anywhere else, but it's no,
Okay, it's
the
not
hot
that
is
bad.
worse in summer than the cold is in winter. We don't get snow or anything like that
Oh,
here.
okay. No, when I don't here, I'm in California. I'm right near the ocean in the I'm right near the spec specific. I'm
Near the
right near
water.
the Pacific Ocean, so
Uh,
yeah, I'm near the water,
yeah, look,
so
I
just like
haven't been over there,
20
but people
minutes.
who have say the climate here is fairly similar to San Diego.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay. Well,
That's what
I'm
I've heard.
just 9 hours from there.
I can't say for myself. Maybe we should just meet halfway in Hawaii or something. That'd be nice.
Oh, that's not halfway, is it? Hawaii's only 3 hours from me
Oh,
by plane,
yeah,
not
it
by
was a
boat.
lot more than that from
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Do you travel?
Not a lot, no.
You're not likely to come over to America anytime soon?
The cost is prohibitive for that sort of thing, really.
Yeah, it is. It's not cheap, huh? It has been really nice talking to you. I'm really happy that we managed to find a time that we could communicate together with, one of us in California and the other in Australia.
We truly do live in amazing times, don't we?
We sure do. I'm really impressed. So thank you for hanging out with me for a little bit, and I hope the listeners find this very interesting.
Ah, thank you, Susan. It's been lovely to finally talk to you after all this time working together.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's the first time we've actually spoken. So have a really great night.
Okay, good night.